everyone. My name is Sanja. I'm the CEO of UTrust, and UTrust is a Web3 payments technology platform. And this is my fourth time at Web Summit. What they usually ask me to talk about is financial inclusion, how to use crypto and blockchain for your business. But this year I'm going to focus on creating more inclusive work cultures. And for sure, when you mention gender equality and inclusive workspaces, you might think about very cliche topics. Can you hear me? Okay. So when you hear the topic about inclusion, people usually think about very cliche things like having female quotas and like having policies in companies to increase the number of women. And that's all great work, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Because these things stems from an underlying assumption that you need to push people or force people in a way to make those decisions. And the very fact that that is often true is what lies, what is the root of the problem. So today I'm going to speak about what each one of us can do as a woman in the workspace, but also as a man who wants to support women in order to create a more inclusive culture, starting really from ourselves, from raising our own confidence. And what I want to start with is to really talk about what are the challenges, because for sure you've seen founders and people talking about how they raised money, how they sold their company, how they achieved success, and that's all very inspiring often, but what people don't talk about is what are some of the obstacles, some of the challenges that they needed to go through in order to be where they are. And therefore, what I'm gonna do here is really be vulnerable. So as in this picture, like peeling all the layers like an onion, like going underneath of what are some of the things that I had to overcome to be where I am. So I'm gonna be very honest with you in what was my journey. So throughout my career, and especially in the first few years of my career when I was, younger and more naive, I have experienced, bias, whether conscious or unconscious, harassment at work, and unfair pay. And for sure, if I would ask, women sitting here to raise their hand if they experience the same once or more times in their life, I'm sure more than 90% of people would raise their hand. I'm not going to ask you to do that because we don't have time for that and it's quite uncomfortable. But that's really the reality. So that's something that it's not happening in an emerging country, it's not happening to someone else. It's really happening to all the women across the globe, and it needs fixing, and I'm really happy to see a lot of men standing in the audience as well. And in 2010, I was offered my first real job in a multinational corporation. And I was very happy because after many years studying and investing in myself and like unpaid internships, I had the opportunity to join a large corporation. So I was super excited, and I was young and I was passionate. I couldn't wait to like join on my first day. And unfortunately, I was working in sales and business dev at the time. So my manager at the time told me my first week of work that I would need to dress sexier in order to close more leads and close more customers, and therefore to have a better evaluation at the end of the year. And I was very young, I was shy, I didn't have the confidence that I have today in order to challenge that, and therefore I accepted the status quo. And I worked for over a year in an environment where I felt small, I felt very insecure. And it took me a long time to really understand that I could challenge that, and change really depended on raising my own standards. And there's a story that I often use with people to go back to that analogy. The story is not mine. It's from one of my greatest mentors, Tony Robbins. And basically, he went with his family to the circus one day. And one of the main attractions in the circus was this large elephant. And basically, the elephant had like a very small rope tied to the neck, and the rope was then, attached to a stick on the ground. And Tony was really surprised to see like how does such big elephant just stand there, and like he's huge and he could rip the whole tent apart. And so he goes and like he asks the people working at the circus like what is happening, and they explain to him that that elephant was conditioned. That's the name of the process. And basically, when the elephant was a small baby, they put him like with the same rope attached to the neck, with the same stick on the floor, but the difference was that, you know, the elephant was a baby. And so he tried to rip the tent and he tried to like rip the cord, but he couldn't. And he tried for like days and weeks. And then he just accepted that, you know, he's not gonna make it. And in that moment, that rope didn't stop being a rope, and, you know, and it became like the identity of the elephant. And I think, you know, you all can recognize yourself in that analogy, that sometimes we are elephants and we give the power to someone else to decide what we're capable of and what we can do. So when I finally realized that really I had the power to react, I raised my own standards and I started applying to different jobs in different countries, but most importantly in corporations where I knew that diversity and inclusion was at the core of their values. And you know, I changed many things in my career, and I am where I am because of that understanding. And so what I would really like to ask you is, are you being that elephant in any area of your life? Like, where are some of the limitations that you decided to take upon yourself? And is that the result of you, or is that the result of society, or trying to fit in? Or, you know, maybe you think that people will like you more if you behave in a certain way, or if you are in a certain way. Because in the end, many people live their life according to what they believe they are, but that's not really who they are. And so, you know, if you think about it, then it doesn't really matter if you can rip that rope apart if you already decided that you cannot do that. And therefore, it's in our hands to change the situation. So to all the women and to all the men out there, the message is really, you know, you have the power. Never give the power away to someone else. And it starts within yourself. So the road to inclusion really starts within ourselves, including ourselves first, and like raising our confidence. And sometimes, you know, that requires working with a coach, finding a mentor, asking for help, sometimes going to therapy, because like everyone has some limitations that they need to work through. And really, it starts within ourselves. And another analogy I can make is when you are on an airplane and they're explaining like what you need to do in case of an emergency, what do you need to do? Like put the mask, the oxygen mask first to yourself, not to others. And that's not just, you know, being selfish. It's really, you know, you need to have your tank full before trying to help someone else. So before being that amazing leader, that amazing person that will invite other women on the table, that will invite an introvert to the table, work on your own limitations first, because you will always have the power. And nothing advances the women cause more than women advancing themselves. Thank you very much.